know what cheese curds, motorcycles, and surf rods have in common? Turns out the best of all come from Wisconsin.
That's right. We're talking the 77-year-old, family-owned American company, St. Croix Rod, where the surf is no part-time business. Offering 41 models across 5 distinct surf series, St. Croix has been designing and handcrafting high-performance, tech-forward surf rods for decades.
Simply put, St. Croix combines the best technology and components with the lengths, powers, and actions demanded by discerning anglers up and down the Striper Coast. All this to say that St. Croix is the premier choice for anglers who demand the best rods on earth. Check out the full lineup at stcroixrods.com.
Beginning in the 1970s as a mail-order catalog, the Surfcaster has long been known as the source for hard-to-find surf fishing gear, and I've been personally shopping with them since the 1980s. They offer honest advice and the best recommendations regardless of your experience level, and will tailor their suggestions to what you actually need.
As you would expect from a business that's been serving the surfcasting community for 50 years, their prices are competitive and delivery is always quick and secure. They want you to have the best possible experience in the surf and have the knowledge and inventory to put the right gear in your hands to make that happen. So check out the Surfcaster at www.thesurfcaster.com, and if you're in the area, stop into their brand new brick and mortar store in Shelton, Connecticut. Welcome back to the Surfcast Podcast, your favorite, and I will venture to say the best, surf fishing podcast out there, Toby, right? Am I right about that?
Absolutely.
Oh, well, see, now it's consensus. So today we have an interesting conversation topic that I think a lot of you listening will probably be scratching your heads and trying to find the answers for yourself in terms of your own fishing and your own plug choices and your own fishing. And today we're going to be tackling a topic in an interesting way that we haven't really talked about at all, Toby, I don't think. And that's color. That's lure color. And Toby, you actually came up with this question, but I'm doing the lead-in, which I guess we didn't think about completely. We didn't think that through totally, but which is fine. So I guess since you came up with it, I'll let you go first. And the question is this. Now imagine you're fishing on a given night. It doesn't matter what the night is. We're going to go, it's a random night. And you pick the lure that you want to fish out of your bag. Okay? Now, you get to pick the lure. It can be anything you want. But someone is going to hand it to you. And when they hand it to you, it's going to be a random color. You have no idea what that color is going to be. It could be a color you carry. It could be a color that you want. It could be a color that you've never seen before. But it could be just some random color. That might be going a little extreme, but we'll roll with it. Is there a lure that you fish with where if they handed it to you, you would still have utter confidence in it no matter what the color was?
So I'll give listeners a second to think about that before I start my answer.
Yeah.
What my first one is. Because
yeah.
it was something when this, like, I'm sure we all do, like, random thoughts pop into our heads about fishing. And a lot of times mine is when I shower at the end of the day, I clear my mind and it's sort of just like a relaxation. It's the first time where I'm not working, I'm not worrying about it, I'm not doing it. It's like I give myself a minute or so to just relax. And I have a lot of ideas that pop in then for writing, for the podcast. And this was one of those things. I don't know how it jumped into my brain, but it popped in of, is there a lure, like you said, Jared, that if someone just gave it to me, even if I didn't know, if I had to close my eyes and didn't know what the color was when I threw it, as long as I knew it was lure X, is there one where no matter what it was in the end, I would be equally confident? And I started thinking about it, and there's some lures I don't think the color really matters, but my confidence wouldn't be there.
That's right. That's right.
Like, so that's a piece of it too, that as I was thinking the whole concept out, because then flashback to what I was saying, when I think of these ideas in the shower, 99% of the time I forget them unless I constantly say it. So like the whole time I'm in the shower, I'm like, lure, no color, confidence. I kept saying that. And so I wouldn't forget, And then I ran outside and I emailed myself. But I was going through it And it took me a little while. I was thinking, is it this plug? No. I would still not be as confident in some situations. And the closest, you think we've given listeners enough time to...
Yeah. I think you've preambled enough. Yeah.
It took me a while to come up with it, but I decided on the darter. The darter is my lure. Brand aside, like I'm not worrying about the Super Strike versus North Bar versus Gibbs or whatever. The darter across all of that does not matter manufacturer, doesn't matter color. I'm gonna have equal confidence. Again, if it's like you said, it's just a random night, conditions doesn't all that be damned. Color, whatever. If I've got the darter on. Now there are a few little tweaks that I might be a little more confident if the color was this versus that. But again, if it was really that I didn't know what the color was, like that's where I kind of put it. I didn't know. It doesn't matter. I still feel I've got an equal, chance, likelihood of catching, and it's doesn't mean the color. That's where I went was the darter.
That's very interesting because I would say that. Oh, man, I got to think about that. I would say that most nights I would have the same feeling. Mm-hmm. And by most nights, I mean, like, we're not talking 60% of nights. We're talking like 90% of nights, right? But boy, Toby, I can't buy in. I can't completely buy in. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you because there is a certain situation where I would be like, bright or bright-ish nights on Big Sand Beach. If I somehow ended up with a jet black one, I would be shattered. I would be like, man, I just really wish I had any light color. Now it doesn't have to be, white or yellow over white or orange or, red or bright green or parrot or blah, blah, blah. Just something light, like something light. Then my confidence would be, but that's about it. I would say for that particular situation, that would be about it.
Yeah, no, so if I would feel similar. I wouldn't be as confident, but I'd still be fine. And like sort of on the flip side, if it turned out that the water was really dirty and I had a light colored, I'd kind of feel the same way where I might prefer to have the darker, like I've done really well, doesn't matter light conditions, but dirty water, I generally lean to a darker plug. So with the darter, the first thing would come out if I had a chance to look at it would be the black or blurple darter. But I've still done well. Like that's the thing I was thinking. It's on any given night I'll pack a dark and a light, regardless of where I am.
I know
what the moon is. Like they're both, because I've had enough nights where it's been crazy dark, and I've done really well on a parrot, and then I couldn't get a touch on a dark black one. Or I've had really bright nights where I haven't done anything on the lighter colors, and then I slap the dark one on. I'll throw a blurple, and I'll hook up. So it's probably the only one that I could be confident enough in it.
That to me is that happening to me is so rare that I don't even worry about that. But you know what I do? I carry 3. So I don't carry 3 of a lot of plugs. But I'll carry 3 Super Strike darters. And sometimes I'll throw in another darter. But with the same thought processes. Dark, light, and then something I hope that can bridge the difference. Because my thought process is, if they're on that light one, and I break it off because I get a tangle or I get a monster or something happens, now all I've got is a dark. Now I'm a little bit worried. Most nights it wouldn't matter. Most nights I would put it on, and if I was catching and I got broke off from a big fish, then I'm going to continue to catch. But if I have that one in between, that's a bridge. It's sort of a bridge between the two. Then I know, like, okay, well, this one's parrot, that one's black or blurple. Okay, this one's going to be smoky, or my custom painted brown over white, or something that's kind of in between. Hopefully, that sort of bridges the gap. So.
Yeah, if I'm at a sticky darter spot, I'll often pack 3 or 4, but in that selection it ends up being one black or blurple, and then it's yellow, parrot, and then like one of the bunkerish patterns that I make, where I take like the gold over the white, and I get bored and I draw dots on it like a bunker has, and accentuate the eyes and all that crap, which I don't think really makes a difference. But I would still lean to having multiples on the lighter side, but the darker one, I could probably mentally accept losing that black one on those nights and have the light colored. But if it was like, if I had 3 darks and 1 light, I'd probably be more nervous, but I'd still feel okay if I lost something in there.
That's interesting, because I feel the same way. What you just said absolutely sums up, when we're talking about the darter specifically, you summed up the same thing. I lean light, and I would rather lose the dark, but honestly, in the end, it's all about that presentation and that action, and that's really what I'm thinking about so much more than the color.
I bet if you added it up, more striped bass were caught from the surf last year on plastic swimmers than any other plug, probably even more than bucktails. The reason is simple. For generations, the plastic swimmer has proven to be a versatile, effective, and affordable fish catching machine.
And that's where the new Hogi OG Swimmer comes in. Unlike most of the other modern swimmers that all look and act alike, the OG Swimmer brings together a traditional design with modern enhancements to offer anglers with a unique and highly effective swimming plug unlike anything else currently on the market. With a unique wobbling action, it moves like an injured baitfish, and it's a large profile, chunky and tubular, and measuring in at 7 inches. Plus, with a downturn line tie, the OG Swimmer stays shallow, making it ideal for surf anglers.
All of this is tied together in an extra hard body that's through-wired and decked out with VMC hooks and a hand-tied bucktail teaser. And just like the Hogi needlefish, you won't find a rear hook on this lure, which is better for the fish, better for your hands, and easier on your wallet. This is all part of the Hook One platform, as well as Hogi's new core philosophy, quality for today, conservation for tomorrow. To find out more about this mission, and to pick up one of these premium OG swimmers, be sure to check out www.hogilures.com.
So, I hope this isn't cheating, because it's not a plug, but it is a lure. And so I'm giving away already now. Now, anybody who even remotely knows anything I've written or knows me, they already know where I'm going with this. So I think if it was any night and it was every night, and you handed me a Sluggo or a similar jerkbait rigged style soft plastic, so not a jig head, I would feel utter confidence. And I would feel totally secure, no matter if it was jet black, bright pink, some weird color, that, I don't know, draw patterns on it and swirlies and make a tie-dye. Like, I don't care. Put flowers on it. Like, it wouldn't matter. It would not matter to me. And the reason for this, I think, is that the action of said lure, when worked weedless and jerkbaity the way I do, which is a 2-hour seminar, I'm not going to go into it right now, but I think that supersedes everything. And I'll tell you, you were saying, that like you've had nights where, put this lure on and all of a sudden it's not, nothing's happening, and put the other color on and boom, you're into fish. On the flip side of that, I've had nights where I've gotten into fish on Sluggos, on Hogies, those two specifically, which are kind of different and do a little bit different things, and I use them differently. But they'll be in the bag at the same time. I have been on bites with fish on those where I get 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 150 fish. And on those nights, I'm usually fairly prepared with enough soft plastics, but man, when you get 120 or 150 fish night, and I'm not talking 20-inch fish. I'm not talking like friggin', I'm talking, yes, some 25s, but we're talking 35s to, high 30-inch fish. Which, how many people have gotten into 150 fish nights where you have 42 to 45-inch fish? That's pretty rare, right? But anyways. And I'll have a mix of colors with me because I'll be prepared, right? I'll have a mix of black and white and something over something. And then you just start getting destroyed. So every single soft plastic in your bag has to come out because you're just going through them left and right. They're getting all torn up and you're tearing off the nose and you're trying to hook them down. You're tearing them off even bigger. So now you're like, they're getting shorter and shorter and shorter until they're like stubby. And okay, well this one, now it's finally stopped working. So then you take it off, you put on another one, you got a black, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I have seen that over and over and over. I mean, I don't know how many bites I've had where that's been the case, but it's certainly more than a dozen where you had to use up whatever color I had and had to switch to the other color, and then it makes no difference at all. And I'll even go to say, because I was thinking about this, Toby, when you pitched it to me, because I didn't tell you what I was going to pick. Actually, you didn't tell me either. Had I ever had a situation where I used them up and then switched to the other color and didn't have it work? And the answer is no. And have I ever had a situation where I can definitively say, I was throwing the white one, and I threw it, and I rotated out, and I threw it again, I rotated out, and then, and I put on a black one, and boom, I had fish, and then the rest of the night they weren't. No, that has never happened to me. Never. That's never happened to me with those two, with that style. And it also doesn't matter the size, whether it's like, what Hogi's is the smallest, the 7, Sluggo's 9, and then Hogi has a 10, and then there's the 12 Sluggo, any of those. So, yeah.
It's so when I was thinking what your answer was going to be, that was one of the two that I thought it might be.
Okay,
but
you probably thought the other one would be some kind of glider, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I was figuring glide was going to be what it goes, because, like, for me personally, I'm going too deep on soft plastics. I'm like 98% of the time dark color.
I know you are. I know.
Rare on the light colors. And I was wondering, and you kind of answered, I guess, towards the end there. So that is you would have that confidence level essentially regardless of size. Now I'm not gonna, this hypothetical scenario where you get the blind, or we're not gonna also blind the size, but whether it was a 7-inch to a 13-inch, you'd still feel essentially equally confident.
Well, so you mentioned 13. Okay, so. Yeah,
because then we're breaking above what the Sluggo or
because
they're in that range.
It brings up an interesting thing that I was going to mention, and it's a little bit of a sidebar. But if we're now talking about putting them on a jig head, things start to change for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I maybe didn't think this through enough, and maybe I should have, because this is kind of my thing, right? But why would a jig head make any difference? Well, the answer is pretty simple, I think. I'm kind of pausing to let people think about it. When I'm working these things jerkbait, there's no question they're super high in the water column. They're absolutely super high. So now they're usually, almost always, backlit by the sky. Even when the sky is dark, it's lighter than 3 feet down into the water. And when it's lighter, which is, most of the time you have some moon, right? It's more percentage than no moon. They're just backlit. And maybe the color doesn't matter as much. Now, put a jig head on, and all of a sudden you're getting it down. And some nights maybe the dark color is going to make it stand out more, hide it more, cloudy, all of that stuff. And maybe then it makes a big difference. I will also say, going back to what I said about the sand beach, I'm fishing a lot of jig heads when I'm on a sand beach with these soft plastics. And again, now I want light. I'm thinking light, because I got light bottom, the lighter sky. I got a big slope. If the fish are looking at the beach, it's a mountain in front of them that they're staring right into a light. And I just feel like in that situation, I would not I would break the rules. I would not feel ultimate confidence. Confidence. But here's a question, Toby. This is really what this is kind of getting to. What percentage of nights? Okay, so take a month. Let's take 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you fish every single day. All right, let's just say. Of those 30 days, what percentage of nights does color matter or not matter? And I'll let you do either one. Right? Because that's really what this is getting to. Yeah. What percentage?
What percentage does it matter in my head or with the fish?
You can say both. That's an interesting answer already.
The reason I say that was because I think in my head, again, it goes to the confidence piece of it, that on the extremes of that, so the extremes of the moon, the extreme brightness levels of those nights. So the darkest of dark nights and the lightest of light nights. So the lightest light nights, obviously around the full moon, but only if it's clear. So, so I guess we can, would have, simple answer, if it's completely clear the whole time, then yeah, just on those 2 moon cycles within a few days of either side, I would, in my head, think it means way more. And it's way more important. On the in-betweens, I'm not as worried about it. Like, when it's a half, quarter moons, that kind of range, I don't think it's as influential, or that you start dealing with little shadows and darker spots, it just doesn't seem to make as big a difference. But when it's like full dark or full bright, I worry more about it, that out the gate, the first lure coming out is going to, bright night, I'm going to start on a bright color.
Right.
And on the really dark, I'm going to start on the dark nights. Whereas those in-betweens, I don't care. It's like my bag is roughly 50-50 dark and light, and I reach in and I want to throw a big metal lip. So, I just happen to grab the yellow one versus the black one to start with. And then I'll kind of evolve it from there and see what the night does, what the fish are responding to for whatever reason. Is there a preference? And then I'll continue playing with that on those in-between nights. But on the, again, those extreme ends, I definitely lean heavier. But I don't go all in. I mean, I'm not packing, for instance, if it's a new moon night, dark as could be, I'm not packing a full dark plug bag. There was a time when I would, but not in recent memory would that happen. It might sway that. It might be a 3/4 dark plug bag at most, but it's still, I'm probably going to lean to 50-50, because for every, black metal lip, I'm going to want a yellow metal lip or a white metal lip, and the same with the darters. And except for, to go against what you said, my soft plastic, they're all going to be black.
Yeah, I know. Well,
but on it's funny, kind of what you said on the bigger stuff. For me, if it's like 9 inches and under on the soft plastics, I don't really care so much what the color is. But once I get over that, it's really important. But partially because of the jigs, like you said, but like, let's take the 12-inch sluggo. Or if I'm rigging even some of the 13-inch soft plastics, weightless, those I still want dark. But I fish mine differently than you do. Mm-hmm. Because you're fishing more active, there's more to it. Like you said, it might be bringing it up, and I'm still with those, especially with those bigger weightless soft plastics, trying to put them down in the bottom.
Yeah.
So then it gets in maybe. Yeah. Yeah. So that was like when as soon as you said that, before you got to mentioning it, I was like, I wonder if his thought of the slug, the soft plastic is across all those. Because I mean, you give me a 7-inch sluggo, I really couldn't care any less what color it is. It wouldn't make a difference for me.
So
9s, I'm leaning, but I don't mind so much what color. But yeah, once you get above that, it's like in my brain, it's very important.
So I got 2 questions for you. Well, I have a question and a comment. I'll do the comment first. The first is that I don't pack a plug bag with like per moon sort of thing, except on full on crazy bright full moons. I still pack a bag that I would say this is a full moon bag. And I've taken photos of it and stuff before. Like, it's all very bright colors. But the rest of the time, even new moon and stuff, I'll still have a fully white darter, white soft plastic, etc. But the other thing is, I'm going to pin you down on this. You say maybe 4 days a month out of that 30 days color would be, on your mind.
No, because you got, if the 2 moons.
Okay.
So I'd 6 to.
Wow.
6 to 10, because I'm looking at it here. So you've got
Wow.
the night before, the night after. In the very least, it's going to be 6.
You're talking 20 to 30% then, you feel, roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say.
Because I'm thinking the night of the moon, but then the night before and the night after usually can be really close. It could be like a 2%.
Right.
Of the moon, or on a new, or 98% on the full, which is basically the same thing.
Yes.
So in the very least, I'm looking at 6, but then those 2 days out are still in the single digit percentages of moon. So it could go as far as, yeah, I mean, that would be, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10.
Yeah,
6,
so
10.
30% roughly, but 6 would be 20, so somewhere between.
Yeah,
20
where
and
I'm really
35.
thinking about it.
But
yeah,
I would say 1 day for me. I would say 1 day, and the only way
per moon or per month?
Per 30 days. So
Okay.
per 30 days. 1 day. And I will be honest, I'll say two things. The first is the day that color mattered, I probably would luck into it because I'd probably be rotating because I'd be smart. And I'd be like, let's try some different things. It's not working. You've gone through your complement of plugs, your rotation of 6 or 7 things 3 or 4 times, or the tide stage has changed, or you've moved. Like, let's try something different. Let's put on a black sluggo or, whatever. And boom, I'm into fish. And all of a sudden, oh, wow, that matters. Also, I will say that I may never actually know that one day mattered because I probably am going to screw it up. I will be honest. I mean, let's be honest, right? I mean, anybody who's listening who's saying otherwise is a liar. So that's my thing. And I don't disagree with you necessarily. I'm just saying for me, if you were like, no lie, hand on the Bible, how many days in that 30-day cycle do you think that color really matters? I would say probably 1. And I don't know what day it would be. And maybe it would be none, but then next month maybe there would be 2 because it's really bright and the fish are on small bait and they're right on the surface and you got to have something that's, really light colored or something like that. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you another question as we finish up the episode. Now, this one was tough for me. I'm not sure I have a great answer, so it's a loaded question. What is a lure that you fish that has to be a specific color? Has to be, you're like, if it's not this color, throw it away. And if you want to think about it, I can go if you want. But go ahead.
So is the question a lure or a plug? Because again, I kind of already answered because the soft plastics.
Well, that's fair. That's fair.
For me, and I've tried. I've tried to debunk it, and again, it's still a confidence level that I like those darker soft plastics on the larger stuff. If it was a plug, so we're saying a hard bait, wood, plastic. Wait, I think I just might have metal. Does that count?
Sure, I wouldn't even have thought of it. Would not even have thought of it.
I don't like a black or a colored metal. Hopkins Castmaster is probably the closest because it's got the little blue half to it. But for those, it would have to be the straight chrome. That would probably be the one. Because like with those, I'm thinking, there are night metals that are produced that are black and so on. But I see them at a shop. I won't even buy one because it just can't be in my head. So that would probably, if we take those out, I don't think there's a wood or plastic I can think of right now where it's absolutely 100%. Yeah. The glide would be close because I've told you before I haven't done well on black, but I've done okay on darker patterns.
Yeah, but see, that's shades even. That's not even a specific color.
Shades. Yeah. You'd be getting into shades, yeah.
So I'll finish up the episode here.
Yeah.
So I had this question yesterday. We're recording this long before this is coming out, but I was talking to Al Gags, actually. And he had me kind of thinking about stuff, and I was walking through his shop, and it was because it was all these different colors, and I was thinking about this, and I was telling Carly about visiting the shop. Carly's my wife. I was talking to Carly about visiting the shop and stuff, and I paused, and she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh man, I just had a great question to ask Toby for the podcast tomorrow, because we're doing this thing about color." She goes, "Oh, what is it?" And she knows she doesn't know it, but she knows my fishing addiction. She's fished with me plenty of times enough to understand surf fishing. She's had some good fish. I've watched her blow up reels and on fish and stuff. She has a wetsuit that she hasn't worn in many years now, but etc. And I said, the question that I came up with for Toby is what lure has to be an exact color? And I said, I wonder what it would be for me. And she said instantly, no hesitation at all, chicken scratch bomber. And I went, mother effer, if that ain't as close as I'm going to get. You know what? I think that's where we end it. Because I said, Carly, I think if my bomber 16A isn't chicken scratch, I'm probably not going to fish. This has been a weekly edition of the Surfcast Podcast. You can find out more about the podcast at surfcastpodcast.com, or definitely check us out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, at the Surfcast Podcast.